August 14th, 1945, 11:23 a.m., a processing tent outside Southampton, England. Annalisa Hartman's hands won't stop shaking. She's been a prisoner for 6 days. 6 days since her signals unit surrendered in the chaos of northern Germany's collapse. 6 days of transport trucks, temporary holding facilities, and finally this, a British POW camp on the southern coast of England. She's 23 years old, trained radio operator, daughter of a Munich schoolteacher. And right now, sitting on a wooden bench, waiting to be processed, she's experiencing something she has absolutely no framework to understand. The British guard standing 10 feet away isn't doing anything remarkable. He's just standing there, rifle slung casually over his shoulder. Clean uniform, calm expression, watching the line of German prisoners move through processing with professional detachment. But something about him, something Annalisa can't name or explain, is making her chest feel tight in a way that has nothing to do with fear. This is the problem. She was prepared for fear, prepared for anger, prepared for the shame of defeat and capture. The Reich had been very specific about what emotions prisoners should expect to feel. Nobody prepared her for this strange, unsettling flutter in her stomach every time the guard happens to glance in her direction. This is dangerous. This is wrong. This is something she absolutely cannot allow herself to feel. She stares at her hands, forcing herself not to look up, not to notice the way afternoon sunlight catches his profile, not to wonder what his voice sounds like, not to feel anything except the appropriate emotions of a defeated enemy. It doesn't work. Behind her, another prisoner, Margrethe, former cipher clerk from Hamburg, leans close and whispers in German, "Are you all right? You look strange." "I'm fine," Annalisa lies. "You keep looking at that guard, the tall one by the entrance." "I'm not looking at anyone." "Annalisa!" Margaret's voice carries knowing amusement. "I've known you for 3 years. You're the most composed person in our entire unit. Right now, you look like you're about to faint. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I just—" Annalisa trails off because she has no words for what's happening. How do you explain that your body is betraying every piece of training, every bit of propaganda, every appropriate response to captivity? How do you explain that you're feeling something that shouldn't be possible toward your enemy? Because what happened to Annalisa Hartman reveals something profound about how easily ideology crumbles when confronted with actual human beings. The processing line moves forward. Annalisa stands, trying to ignore the fact that moving means walking past the guard, past those calm eyes that she absolutely should not be noticing. She keeps her gaze down. Professional, appropriate, the proper behavior of a defeated prisoner. But as she passes him, something makes her glance up, just for a second. Their eyes meet. He nods slightly, not threatening, not mocking, just acknowledging her existence as a human being. That small gesture does something to Annalisa's carefully maintained composure. Her breath catches. Heat floods her face. She looks away quickly, stumbling slightly over her own feet. Margrethe steadies her with a hand on her elbow. "Annalisa, what is happening to you?" "I don't know," Annalisa whispers. And it's the truth. She genuinely doesn't know. This feeling, this strange mix of attraction and confusion and something she can't even name, makes no sense. She's supposed to hate these people, fear them, resent them, not this, whatever this is. The guard's name, she learns later, is Corporal David Hamilton, 27 years old, from somewhere called Yorkshire. These details come from Margrethe, who's more comfortable talking to the guards, asking questions in her improving English. Annalise doesn't ask about him, doesn't want anyone to know she's curious. But she listens when Margrethe shares information, absorbs details like a plant soaking up water. He was a teacher before the war, history. He has a younger brother who served in North Africa. He's been assigned to this camp for 3 months, supervising female prisoners with what the other guards describe as excessive politeness. That last detail makes something twist in Annalise's chest. Excessive politeness, as if treating prisoners with basic human decency is somehow remarkable. The first week passes in a blur of adjustment. The camp is clean, organized, nothing like the propaganda warnings about British prison camps. Hot meals, medical care, work assignments that are demanding but not brutal. Annalisa is assigned to the administrative section, her education and language skills making her useful for translation work. It's better than laundry or kitchen duty. It's also, she discovers with something between dread and anticipation, supervised by Corporal Hamilton. Their first real interaction happens on her 3rd day of work. She's translating a document, struggling with a particular English phrase. She's been staring at the same sentence for 5 minutes, her English-German dictionary open beside her, frustration mounting. "May I help?" His voice, deep, calm, with an accent that makes the words sound somehow rounder, warmer than the clipped German she's used to. Annalisa looks up. Hamilton is standing beside her desk, maintaining appropriate distance, his expression professional. She switches to English, knowing she needs the practice. "This phrase, I do not understand." He leans slightly closer to see the document. Not inappropriate, just close enough to read. But Annalisa is suddenly intensely aware of his proximity. Can smell soap and something else, tea maybe. Can see the fabric of his uniform moving slightly with his breath. Her heart is doing something strange, something that makes her hands feel unsteady. "Ah," Hamilton says, pointing at the problematic sentence. "That's an idiom. It means—" He explains clearly, patiently, making sure she understands not just the translation, but the context. Annalisa focuses on his words, tries to ignore the strange warmth spreading through her chest, tries to ignore how his careful patience makes her feel safe, respected, seen as something more than just a defeated enemy. "Do you understand?" he asks. "Yes. Thank you, Corporal." "David," he says quietly. Then, as if realizing the informality might be inappropriate, adds, "I mean, you may call me David. If you prefer, when we're working." The offer of his first name feels significant, intimate in a way that shouldn't matter, but somehow does. "Annalisa," she offers in return. Then, because she needs to establish some boundary, some protection against whatever this feeling is. But perhaps Corporal is more appropriate. Something flickers in his expression. Disappointment? Understanding? "As you prefer," he says formally, and steps back to his proper supervisory distance. Annalisa returns to her translation, but the words blur. Her concentration is shattered, not by confusion about English idioms, but by the realization that she just rejected an offer of friendship because she's terrified of what might happen if she accepts it. That night in the barracks, Margrethe corners her. "All right, enough. Tell me what's happening." "Nothing's happening." "Annalisa Hartmann, I have shared a room with you for 3 years. I know when something is wrong. You've been strange ever since we arrived. Distracted? And today, during work, I saw you with Corporal Hamilton, the way you looked at him." "I didn't look at him any particular way." "You absolutely did. Like you were." Margaret searches for words. "Like you were feeling something you couldn't explain, something that scared you." The accuracy of that statement makes Annalisa's defenses crumble. She sits on her bunk, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she admits quietly. "Ever since that first day, when I saw him, when he looked at me, something happened. Something I don't understand." "What do you mean, something happened?" "My heart. My breathing, I look at him and I feel. She struggles to articulate the inexplicable. I feel like I'm falling. Like the ground isn't quite solid. Like something inside me is breaking open and I don't know what's going to spill out. Margaret sits beside her, understanding dawning in her expression. Oh, Annalisa, that's not something wrong. That's... Don't say it. Attraction. That's attraction. No? Annalisa shakes her head firmly. It can't be. He's British. He's our enemy. Or was our enemy. I can't possibly feel that toward someone who treats you with kindness. Margarete interrupts gently. Who speaks to you with respect? Who makes you feel like a human being rather than a defeated prisoner? It's wrong. Is it? The war is over, Annalisa. Germany lost. We were lied to about so many things. What if we were also lied to about this? About who we're allowed to feel things for? Annalisa wants to argue, wants to insist that propaganda about British soldiers being the enemy wasn't a lie. But she can't, because every day in this camp contradicts what she was taught. The guards are professional, not brutal. The food is adequate. The treatment is humane. And David Hamilton, Corporal Hamilton, is kind and patient and nothing like the enemy she was taught to hate. What do I do? She asks helplessly. You acknowledge what you're feeling instead of fighting it. You accept that propaganda lied. And maybe. Margaret pauses. Maybe you let yourself explore what this means. I can't? It's inappropriate. He's my supervisor. I'm a prisoner. There's a power dynamic that makes anything between us. I'm not suggesting you act on it. Just stop torturing yourself for feeling it. Attraction isn't a choice, Annalisa. It just happens, even when it shouldn't. The weeks pass. Summer turns to early autumn. The strange, inexplicable feelings don't fade. If anything, they intensify. Every day, Annalisa works in the administrative office. Every day, David, she thinks of him as David now, even though she still calls him Corporal to his face, supervises her work. Their interactions remain professional, appropriate, but underneath the surface, something else is building. She catches him watching her sometimes, not in a threatening way, just watching, with an expression she can't quite read, but that makes her pulse quicken. Does he feel it too? This strange pull? This inexplicable connection? Or is she imagining things because she wants to believe she's not alone in this confusion? One September afternoon, they're alone in the office. The other prisoners have been dismissed early. David is reviewing documents at his desk. Annalisa is finishing a translation. The silence between them feels charged, weighted with everything unspoken. Annalise! His voice breaks the quiet. He never calls her by her first name during work hours. The fact that he does now means something. She looks up. May I ask you something? Personal? Her heart starts racing. Yes. Are you... He stops, seeming to struggle with how to phrase the question. Do you find this situation as confusing as I do? The question is vague enough to be deniable, specific enough that she knows exactly what he means. I don't understand what you mean, she says carefully. I think you do. They look at each other across the office. The power dynamic is still there, guard and prisoner, supervisor and worker. But something else exists too, something neither of them can name, but both are clearly feeling. Yes, Annalisa finally admits, I find the situation very confusing. Since when? Since the first day. Since I saw you in the processing tent. The honesty spills out before she can stop it. I felt something I couldn't explain. Something I still can't explain. Something that shouldn't be possible. David's expression shifts. Relief? Validation? I thought I was imagining it. The way you looked at me sometimes. I told myself I was projecting, that I was seeing what I wanted to see. What did you want to see? That I'm not alone in feeling whatever this is. The admission hangs between them. Dangerous, inappropriate, honest. I don't know what this is, Annalisa says quietly. I was taught to hate the British, to see you as enemies. Then I met you, and you were kind, patient. You treated me like I mattered, and something happened inside me that I have no words for. Something that feels like... She stops, searching for language. Like waking up, like seeing in color after years of gray, like everything I was taught was a lie, and I'm discovering truth for the first time. That's how I feel when I talk to you, David says. Like I'm seeing past the uniform and the war and all the reasons we're supposed to be on opposite sides. Like I'm just seeing a person, a remarkable person I want to keep talking to. This is impossible. Completely impossible. The power dynamic? I know. My status as prisoner? I know. The fact that we were enemies? Annalise. David stands, taking a careful step closer, but maintaining respectful distance. I know all the reasons this shouldn't happen. I've listed them to myself every day for 2 months. It hasn't made any difference. I still feel what I feel. What do you feel? I don't know. I don't have words for it either. Just that when you're not here, I'm thinking about when you will be. When you are here, I'm aware of exactly where you are in the room. When you look at me with those eyes, confused and hopeful and scared all at once, I feel something I've never felt before. Annalisa's breath has gone shallow. We can't act on this. No, we can't. It would be inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. So what do we do? David moves to the window, staring out at the campgrounds. His back is to her, shoulders tense. We acknowledge what we're feeling instead of pretending it doesn't exist. We maintain proper boundaries. We wait until you're no longer a prisoner and I'm no longer your supervisor. And then, he turns to face her. Then we see if this feeling survives in the real world, outside these circumstances. How long will that be? Repatriation is starting soon. You might be processed within weeks, maybe months. And then? Then you go back to Germany. I go back to Yorkshire, and we write letters if you're willing. See if what we're feeling now is real or just the product of strange circumstances. It's the most sensible plan, the most appropriate response to an inappropriate situation. It's also agonizing. What if it's not real, Annalisa asks. What if I go back to Germany and realize this was just, I don't know, confusion, gratitude for kindness, the emotional instability of being a prisoner? Then the letters stop and we both move on. And if it is real? David's expression softens. Then we figure it out. Together. Somehow. The weeks that follow are the strangest of Annalisa's life. She and David continue working together, professional, appropriate. But now the feelings between them are acknowledged, named, no longer something she has to fight alone. They talk during work, real conversations, about books, about their lives before the war, about hopes for the future. Always careful, always maintaining boundaries, but intimate in their own way. She learns he wanted to be a university professor before the war interrupted everything. He learns she dreamed of studying linguistics in Vienna. They discover shared interests, German Romantic poetry, British historical novels, the kind of intellectual conversation both have been starved for. And the inexplicable feeling, the strange pull she felt from that first day, deepens into something more concrete. Not just attraction anymore, genuine affection, understanding. The beginning of something that might become love if circumstances were different. I'm scared, she admits one October afternoon. Of what? That this won't survive outside these walls, that in the real world we're too different, German and British, former enemies, that what feels real here will dissolve when I'm back in Munich and you're in Yorkshire. I'm scared of that too, David admits, but I'm more scared of not trying. Of walking away from this because we're afraid it might not work. When do I leave? Your papers came through yesterday. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 14 days, then repatriation, then return to a Germany she hasn't seen in over a year, then the test of whether feelings that emerged in a POW camp can survive in the real world. The night before she leaves, the prisoners are allowed a small gathering in the mess hall. Music from a radio. Some dancing between prisoners and guards, carefully chaperoned, officially approved as part of the rehumanization process. David asks her to dance, just once, proper distance, nothing inappropriate. But as they move to the music, some British song she doesn't know, Annalisa feels everything she's been feeling for 3 months crystallize into certainty. This is real. Whatever this is, this strange, inexplicable connection, it's not just circumstance. It's not gratitude or confusion or the emotional instability of captivity. It's real. I'll write, she promises, as soon as I have an address. I'll wait, David says, however long it takes. She returns to Munich in November 1945, to a city that's more rubble than buildings, to a Germany trying to rebuild from devastation. She finds work. She finds her surviving family. She tries to build a life from the wreckage. And she writes to David Hamilton in Yorkshire. The first letter is careful, testing whether the connection survives distance. His response arrives 3 weeks later, just as careful, just as tentative. But then the letters continue. One becomes two, becomes dozens. They write about everything, the mundane details of daily life, the struggle of rebuilding, the complexity of processing what happened during the war, and gradually, through letters, the inexplicable feeling that started in a POW camp transforms into something undeniable. 6 months after her repatriation, David writes, "I'd like to visit Munich, if you're willing. See you outside the context of prison camp and military service. See if what we both felt translates to normal circumstances." Annalisa writes back immediately, "Yes, please come." He arrives in April 1946. They meet at a cafe in Munich's slowly rebuilding center. It's awkward at first, the echo of their former dynamic, the strangeness of meeting as equals. But then they start talking, and Annalise discovers something crucial. The connection wasn't just circumstance. The feelings weren't just the product of captivity. Everything she felt in that POW camp, the inexplicable attraction, the strange pull, the sense of waking up to truth, was real. They marry in 1947. David takes a position teaching at a Munich gymnasium. Annalisa completes her linguistics degree. They build a life together. Their children grow up hearing a sanitized version of how their parents met. During the war, in England, it was complicated. But the full story, the one they tell each other privately, is about something more profound than complicated circumstances. It's about propaganda colliding with human nature, about ideology crumbling when confronted with actual connection, about feelings that couldn't be explained or controlled or made to follow appropriate paths. Annalisa felt things she couldn't explain from the moment she saw David Hamilton in that processing tent. Strange feelings, confusing feelings, feelings that made no sense given the circumstances. Those inexplicable feelings became the foundation of everything that mattered. 50 years later, Annalisa still couldn't fully articulate what she felt that first day. The strange tightness in her chest, the flutter in her stomach, the sense that something fundamental was shifting. "What was it?" her grandchildren would ask. "What did you feel?" "I felt like I was seeing color after years of gray," she'd say. "Like waking up, like discovering truth after believing lies. Like my heart knew something my mind hadn't figured out yet." "And what did your heart know?" That propaganda was wrong, that enemies could be human, that sometimes the most inexplicable feelings, the ones you can't name or control, are the truest ones. That love doesn't ask permission from politics or history or all the reasons it shouldn't exist. Their story proved something important, that human connection can't be controlled by ideology, that attraction doesn't follow rules about who's appropriate to feel things for, that sometimes the most confusing emotions, the ones we resist most strongly, are exactly what we need. Annalisa Hartman felt things she couldn't explain when she met David Hamilton. She fought those feelings, tried to deny them, told herself they were wrong and inappropriate and impossible. But feelings that real don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. They persist. They grow. They transform from confusion into clarity. And sometimes, just sometimes, the things we can't explain become the things that matter most. The POW camp is gone now, demolished decades ago. But what began there, in an administrative office where a German prisoner and British guard acknowledged feelings neither could name, that endures. In grandchildren who speak German and English with equal fluency, in a life built from the wreckage of war, in a love that started as inexplicable attraction and became undeniable truth. Annalise tried to understand what she was feeling, tried to name it, control it, make it fit into appropriate categories. She failed. Beautifully, completely, perfectly failed. And that failure became everything.